What's up, people? It's Dave, it's Duncan, it's Kyle back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan, Kyle, and I have been checking out the new album from Californian sludge metal band Armed for Apocalypse. The band's new album, Ritual Violence, will be released on October 7th via Candlelight Records. So album number 3 from Armed for Apocalypse, which follows up their 2018 EP Palm Reader. But this is technically their first album in about 9 years almost.
Really slacking, guys. Come on. Do you know I kid? Do you know I kid?
I'm going to cut that section out. The album was recorded by Mr. Kurt Ballou at God's City. The album features guest appearances from Andreas Kisser from Sepultura on the track Foredoomed and Trevor Phipps from Unearth on Suffer for a Living. The band said Ritual Violence was written at a time where everything seemed to be hopeless. A lot of the songs in the album revolve around an overall theme of being stuck in an inescapable self-destructive rabbit hole and the struggle to break free of those habits. So, gentlemen, Armed for Apocalypse. And just to get out of the way, I love this band, alright?
Right. So what,
I love this band.
Is this a disclaimer? Is there a disclaimer that should come along the bottom of the screen that says Dave's opinion might be biased? Even if they are true, they might just maybe a spin on them.
My opinions are true, but I also might be biased because I love this band so much.
See, there we go. That's all you need.
We interviewed the band recently about the new album. Link below. And I just want to start off by saying they could be the nicest band on the planet. Like
you listen to the music,
I know.
And then you speak to the band, and you're like,
"What?"
Clearly, get it out in the music.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I think if everyone just did that, there'd be no war, Dave.
Yeah, they are so chilled, like just come across very genuine, very down to earth humans. And an absolute pleasure to sit and chat with.
Humans as opposed to dogs.
Well, not all dogs are chilled and genuine.
This is true. I see the comparison now. I pictured a band of dogs, and now I see that what you were going for was never trust them.
They're ulterior motive sometimes, those dogs.
Yeah.
But anyway, you should definitely check out an interview.
Dave's been burned by a dog. I can tell you went really hardcore there.
My own dog is a fucking dickhead, so I know the score. Check out the interview to find out more about the album. We'll go in more depth, and also find out what their dream tour would be. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, also in the interview, check out. Okay, gentlemen. I'm not going to beat about the bush on this.
You're going first. All right. Sorry, I thought
absolutely going first. Duncan.
I thought you let Kyle
Well, I know it's Kyle's most
like,
anticipated album of the year and all that, but
I didn't realise we were pulling rank.
100%.
Believe it.
If there's one reason I started this whole thing, Duncan, it's so I could talk first.
It's all coming out now. So the whole reason we brought back this like two and a half years in the making just to get to this album.
It's all been building up to this.
Hashtag
basically.
the long con.
Yep.
Right, go for it. Let us know what you felt of an album that you were very excited to listen to.
I mean, like, if you've heard the interview already, I'm pretty sure you can tell how I feel about this album.
2 seconds. I think the only thing that wasn't on that interview was your grade, but I think we could have read between the lines, Dave.
Yeah, and I kept my erect penis out of the shot for the 50 minutes we spoke to them, but
we blurred it out.
It was difficult, but I managed to do it.
Dave was wearing a green condom so he could green screen out the shot. That was after he went through various different filters. He had a lightsaber for a minute.
Lightsaber, chainsaw, lamppost. Yeah, I went through them all.
A llama for no reason at all. I just looked confused.
A giraffe with an extra long neck.
Anyway, Ritual Violence.
Okay, what I love about this album. Let's just start off with a checklist. Now, what I genuinely love about this album is Armed for Apocalypse they've completely stayed true to themselves. Like they haven't watered anything down on this album. They've kept the kind of fundamentals of their sound the same. This is heavier than Elon Musk's wallet. You know what I mean? This is like, and Kale, that's for you, my man. You know the score. But what I love even more is they have shown clear development as well in their songwriting on this album. This isn't just a repeat of The Road Will End, their last album. They've taken the time, a long time obviously, but they've taken the time, and this sounds like a band that have evolved and are still evolving. Now that could be down to a couple of things. They now obviously have changes in their lineup. They've got Nate Berman on guitar and vocals, so that's a different dynamic, another style of writing added to the mix. They've also got a new bassist in Charlie Fisher, which also brings another dimension into the fold. But I think as musicians, they've clearly been kind of sharpening their skills over the last 8-9 years, and you can hear that on the EP they put out 4 years ago. But none of those changes have diminished their sound in any way. Sometimes, bringing in new members, that brings in new songwriting ideas, can push a band in a different direction, change their core sound. But here, I think it's had the opposite effect. I think it's actually strengthened every aspect of the band. These tracks, man, these tracks are just bursting at the seams with huge riffs, right, from beginning to end. And Arm for Apocalypse know exactly, when to push and pull that, so that, the sound on this album doesn't become too repetitive or too linear, or just the same thing for 10, 12 tracks. These tracks weave in and out of different tempos, different rhythms. It's got sludge at its core, but there's also a scattering of hardcore, there's some noise rock, there's some southern influences bleeding through, and all of those elements make this such an interesting and exciting listen. There's not a dull moment on this album, even from the get-go. Under My Shame is a colossal opener. It sets the tone for the album. But what I liked was they didn't lead the album with a predictable kind of Arm for Apocalypse opening track. This is really, it's got a real moody kind of feel to it. There's some real dark synth work in the background of this track, which kind of gives you that uneasy feeling. And it's, when I was listening, I was like, this is kind of a similar feeling to listening to a band like Willhaven, where you've got that heaviness.
Dave's hitting the notes. He's hitting the notes.
But you've got that darkness in the background. Then they kick into Frail, which kind of shakes off that mood and just gives it to you as hard and as fast as possible, just how I like it, with an ending that will just, it will give you Bell's palsy basically at the end of that track. And I loved the moments that they decided to drop in something different, that southern goodness. We need to talk about that southern goodness on this album, because oh man, it not only does it kind of tilt the tone of the album in the other direction, but like a track like Hourglass has that kind of southern type kind of tempo and groove, big bends in the riffs, but nothing can prepare you. I mentioned on the interview, nothing can prepare you for the riff on Foredoomed. Fucking Jesus Christ. That is...
Foredoomed's the sound of a mountain actually getting out the ground and walking. See if a mountain could pull itself out of the ground. That's Foredoomed. It's just... it's I hadn't listened to that when we interviewed him.
Yeah. Jesus,
and I was kind of because you mentioned, I was like, I want to see what Dave was on about. And I just kind of stared at my device in shock for a while. I think my family left me. The house got foreclosed on, and I was still just staring at it. So so fucking heavy.
So man. Good. It's got a kind of almost kind of a down meets solid green kind of meatiness to it, but it's got some really cool guitar harmonies thrown in as well. It's just an awesome track, an awesome moment on the album. I loved the kind of playing with the dual vocals, which you get on Suffer for a Living, which I think is Trevor from Unearth. I thought the two vocal tones against each other were really worked well together, giving a kind of different dynamic on the track. And although this album, it feels just like banger after banger, what really impressed me was the kind of injection of emotional weight that they brought to this album as well. Thieves of Existence has a kind of the perfect choice of chords to deliver something a bit raw and emotion and in depth. And then the closing track as well, Eternally Broken, just shows the band showcasing a real, almost like a kind of vulnerable side to their sound, by leaning into this more kind of like instrumental kind of post-rock section in the middle of the track. And it's absolutely stunning. Like, I wasn't expecting it at all. And I think just hearing them experiment with a new style that, you know, like that, makes me really excited as to what the next stage of this band is going to sound like. I think the diversity they've shown in this release opens even more doors, but the fact they make it sound just so effortless, just like, you know, on this new album, just shows what kind of level these guys are on. Out with the actual album itself, obviously need to mention the production, which, you know, we said at the time of the announcement, and we discussed it in depth on the interview with the band, but Kurt Ballou, like, is the perfect producer for this band and this album. And he absolutely nailed it on this release. It is ruthlessly heavy and corrosive, but it's filled with, it's got such a kind of natural tone and natural character. It just accentuates the style of this band perfectly. Like, I was listening, I was like, it's one of those albums that I kind of wish I was there to witness it being made. Like, there's certain albums in time, like Slipknot's debut with Ross Robinson, for example. That's an album, like, that'd been insane to actually see or witness the process there. I doubt Kurt Ballou's like throwing plant pots at Nick. I mean, that probably didn't happen with this album, but I feel like it would be really interesting, just a real interesting character to watch at work and just see the process of how this all gets kind of put together. But
I thought you were going to say that I would really like to have seen this album get recorded, but the restraining order's still in effect. Legally, I can't. So
true. Yeah, but like, there's no huge surprise here. I fucking love this album, and I've been playing it to death for the last month. And I will continue to do so. I feel like they kind of level up on every album, but this for me felt like the clearest involvement in the band's career so far, and it excites me to no end as to what comes next. If Arm for Apocalypse aren't on your radar right now, then do something about it. Like, if you love bands, you know, like Crowbar and Conjurer or Black Sheep Wall, this is your new favourite band. Like, check these guys out, 100%. Kyle, most anticipated release of the year, apparently.
Hey, you can tell I'm looking forward to it.
He wasn't trolling you.
I think it kind of was, Duncan. I think it kind of was.
I think he accidentally trolled Jen. I think it's the greatest accidental troll that's ever happened.
The way you called me a son of a bitch as soon as I said it just made my year. Didn't expect it, didn't know it was coming, made my fucking year.
What did you think of Ritual Violence?
I'm quite sure this album, first time I listened to it, made me shit myself.
In a good way.
Fucking jaw dropped. I was like, because they've been pretty heavy before, I'm not going to lie. Like, the album they had 9 years ago was on the heavy side. And then this came out, and I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Just how did you take what you had and make it fucking heavier? I am going to buy this album on CD so I can peg it.
Which is a joke that you'll get if you listen to the last review.
Yeah.
So you now have to listen to them in series, so you need to post them in order, Dave.
Yeah, I do. Apologies.
I mean, I'm going to harp on the production. Well, not harp on it, but I'm going to go on the production because it's just fucking perfect. It's incredible. Everything is mixed together. It's not like one of those productions where everything sits in its little box and you can hear each guitar and the bass and the drum and all this. Everything, it's called a mix for a reason, is mixed together and it sounds like one massive, tight steamroller of a fucking unit, and I love it. Everything is so tight together. The bass tone mixes into the guitar tone, which also mixes into the drums, and the vocalist in the middle, he has got like a similar sort of cadence to the guitar top end, and it's just like, it's insane. It's just, everything is just one huge unit, and that's how metal should be, and I love it. It's also, they record everything organically. So they're using real amps with, you know, microphones, and they're using all of their drums. There's no sample fuckery or anything like that, and it sounds absolutely incredible. There should be a stamp on this album for every other producer on the planet to say this is how it should fucking be done, because you don't need all that shit, you know. This is as heavy as anything else that's come out the past decade, and is absolutely done the way it should be done. So I'm extremely happy for that, and it sent chills up my fucking spine every time I put it on. And I've had it for about a month too, and I'm like, it's been on almost every day.
Nice.
I too want to mention the track For Doomed, because what a name, what a track.
Yeah.
Sounds like a giant stubbing its toe.
Yeah. It does. The lead guitar, it doesn't come through much on the album, but on that track it did. It was just like, what the fuck? Yeah. How do you play guitar like that? It's just impossible. I tried and I broke my wrist. What I think also is the way they've ordered the tracks on the album, like you touched on it before. So they've got like a pretty blistering opener, and then it goes even more blistering, and then it goes a bit sort of more down tempo until the penultimate song, Flesh and Blood, where it is just fucking injects you with a massive burst of energy right before the end of the thing. And I think that is absolutely genius. It's just like, we've had these, I mean, it's not like they're not heavy songs or they're not energetic, they are just more down tempo, and then Flesh and Blood is just like, you know what? Exactly. And I was like, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, this has been one of my most anticipated albums of a while, as was mentioned before, and it absolutely has lived up to that in every single way. So I'm really, really glad that they spent the time and took the effort and crafted this album into what it is, because clearly they could have come out with something 2 years after the other one, but would it have been this good? I'm not sure. So I'm glad that they took their time and did what they thought was right. And I'm really sad I didn't get to interview him the other night.
It was noted, Kyle.
Yep.
Yep. Kyle? You and your many wives?
Yeah.
Mormon Kyle strikes again.
Bloody hard.
Duncan.
Yes, that would be my name.
What would you like to tell us about ritual violence?
So this is the perfect Arm for Apocalypse album. I think it's also arrived at the perfect time. So, they were always not an anomaly in terms of, there were other bands. Well, you mentioned Crowbar before. Crowbar never sounded as heavy as Arm for Apocalypse.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, the influence is there, very much in the same way that, like, when Pantera first came on the scene, no one was really as heavy as Pantera. You could hear all their influences, but no one had done it that way. Arm for Apocalypse always kind of felt to me, and this is maybe why they themselves releasing albums as infrequently as they have is actually probably benefited them in the long run. Maybe not financially, but musically, because I think it's kind of taken the rest of the music scene to kind of catch up with what they are doing. So they're now releasing an album which is really, really heavy, but isn't so heavy that it is so... There's a disparity between other things that are coming out within this genre. You mentioned Conjurer before as being a band who are not specifically in their genre, but are more off the side. Even bands like Willhaven, who we will mention, especially when we're talking about Thieves of Existence, which has a really kind of old school sort of Willhaven vibe about it that I fucking love. But like, even they themselves over time have acclimated to this much heavier, much darker sound. So, like, weirdly, it kind of feels like if this, like you said, if this is the first time you're approaching this band, you've probably picked the best time to do it. And then from here, you'll be going back and experiencing different versions, like almost time capsules, snapshots of what the band sounded like before. Personnel changes are also benefiting here. I love the vocals on this album. I had nothing against the previous vocal stylings, but there's a straight down the line, no nonsense ferocity that is really raspy and really angry and snarly, but he has another level as well. We've mentioned For Doomed about 6 times. Let's mention it again. sounds like what would happen if you dropped like Darth Vader down a volcano. Just so fucking heavy and so dark. But like the tracks like that kick off with it, like you get this huge riff and it's just him. Boom, you get that fucking noise and it like straight away you're just like, oh right, this is going to be heavy as fuck. I think that's the kind of almost the secret weapon to what they have in a lot of respects. They have riffs for days. They've always had riffs for days. Their song composition is great. They've always been great there. Yeah. But a combination of just the most snarly, pissed off vocal stylings and this incredible production brought together, I think has made everything just branch out even more. The songwriting is more experimental in some ways, but never to the point where you're like, oh well, they're just fucking around. Yeah. They've just accentuated stuff they've tried before, or they've added an element in, whether it's a bit of a southern groove without going fully southern, which if you're gonna, you can co-opt and bring in elements without trying to sound like. Yeah. And they've done that very, very smartly. I think that's, is one of the things that kind of stood out to me most on here, is how smart they are with bringing those elements in without letting it be, well, this is the track with the southern riff, or this is the track with the hardcore thing. The structure of the album is impeccable, because this is an album where you're going from a track which starts off so slow and foreboding into a track that hits you like a hardcore fan windmilling, just like so fast and so rapid. But even in the design of the songs themselves, you're taken through tonal changes, you're taken through pace changing. Like it's never static, which is a rarity in this genre. Yeah, it really, really is. Sludge bands tend to find a groove, stick to that groove in the song. The next song's fast, that's cool. That song's likely going to be fast with a slow bit at the end, but then we're going to go back to the groove, find the groove, stick to the groove. And Arm for Apocalypse never really do that. It almost kind of feels like on some level they understand the pure pacing of an album. Now, I don't know how much of that is them and how much of that is Kurt Ballou, who's got a wealth of experience in the background in terms of pinpointing those things, but the actual song structure on the album is impeccable. Like, you do get enough, even when tracks start off with a big sludgy riff and that deep vocal pummeling you in the face. Those tracks are the ones that are in between the tracks that really kick off with attack. There's, like, dare I say, blastage here. It kind of sounded like a blast beat, even though it's not like rapid blast beat. It hits you just in this pocket, and it's in a vacuum. It never really happens again on the rest of the album, and it's a kind of smart move on their part. Once again, adding extra textures and elements to kind of really, like, to make the tracks sound individual, while sounding very much, of the core album. It's a hard thing to get, and they've really nailed it here. I think this is fucking awesome. Like, it had me from the first notes of the opening track under my shame, and Frail does hit you with all the snarl and all the ferocity, but Full of Phlegm, when that kicked in for the first time, you get this horrible fucking bass sound and just this like total disgusting production and feel. But it's a track that by the middle part is playing with clean tones. It's like the more you, it's an album that's not only rewarded by its re-listen, but it's an album that I think they themselves should be incredibly proud of. They're a very hard-working band. They've been on the go for a while. It felt like for the longest time, not that I'm giving Dave Soul credit here, you were certainly in Scotland the only one talking about them. And I think, like I say, I think the musical genre's matured a bit, grown up a bit, and heavied up a bit. And they've released an album which, surprisingly, because they were so ahead of it, should feel, and we've seen this before where bands are kind of at the cusp of something, and then they come back much later on, and it feels like, well, that was of a time period, and it kind of feels a bit dated now. If anything, they've released something that sounds even more contemporary than the contemporary bands that have clearly been influenced by they themselves. I think this is like, hopefully with the right gust of wind behind them, hopefully with the right attention, which they've fucking earned many times over, But hopefully with the right push and the right attention, the albums will come more frequently. And I still don't think we've heard the best Arm for Apocalypse album. I still don't think, which will surprise everyone when you hear the fucking grade I'm going to drop on this. I still think they're just starting to tap into things now that I think will give them much more depth moving forward. I honestly think we've only just begun to live. No, like we are at that point now that I can't wait to see the reaction when this album drops. They've fucking worked hard for it, and they deserve everything they can get this year. And hopefully people tune into it and don't sleep on this album. This is one of the heaviest things you'll hear this year without just being a complete wall of noise.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the greatest compliment that's intended. So, yes, it's fucking awesome.
Nice. So, Ritual Violence by Arm for Apocalypse. Ratings for the new album. Okay. 3
minus a 7. 2. Carry the 1.
Maybe that's more 4.
Then
it's a 5 from me. Kyle. 5 and a giraffe. Kyle.
A giraffe, yeah, sure. All right. 5 and a giraffe. Let's go for it.
I heard that. I literally thought you just went 5 and a giraffe. What say you, fat Kyle? And I was like, that's kind of brutal, is it not? Need to re-listen. I'm sure you said fat Kyle. I'll have none of that. None of that in this show.
How do you know how much cake I've been eating?
That beard's kind of hiding the jowls. You know what I mean?
Foredoomed is heavier than Kyle getting up in the morning. Oh, yeah, bastard.
The riffs are thicker than Kyle's chin.
Right, we're going too far now. We're going too far.
But only the second one.
Did we get Kyle's grade?
I don't think we did. No. Kyle.
I mean, it's an easy 5 plus a giraffe. So and we need the giraffe on the screen.
Giraffe emoji.
Stand in for the banana.
And Duncan.
Yeah, this is a 5. This is absolutely fucking excellent. This is about as good as really, really, really heavy punishing music gets. You know what I mean? And yeah, we love these guys.
Yeah.
But they fucking earned it. There's like no way I couldn't give it a 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fucking amazing.
There's so much reward in this album. Like the re-listens are just as good as the first time you hear it. Okay, Arm for Apocalypse and Ritual Violence. It's out on October 7th on Candlelight Records. Check these guys out. I'll put links below to the band, to the pre-orders, all that sort of stuff, so you can check it out. Have a listen, see what you think. Let us know. Put some comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.